Tom, how can the new temple be built with the Dome of the Rock being there, the Muslim temple?
Well, there's several ways that it could happen. One is what was happening and hopefully still will in Donald Trump's deal of the century, and that is to turn control of the Temple Mount over to moderates. If that were to happen, then you would see Jews having the rights to be able to pray on the Temple Mount. Christians and Jews can't pray there. We can go, you can go up to the Temple Mount, but only the Muslims are allowed to go there to pray. You'd see that as a major step forward in changing kind of the sentiments around it. Now, there are other ways in which this could happen much quicker. The Temple Mount sits on top of a major earthquake fault, and we know that according to prophecy, catastrophic earthquakes are a part of the end times.
Yes, they are.
And literally, the Temple Mount could be destroyed. The finger of God could say, "It's time. Let the Messianic era begin," right? That the Jews are looking for, and the earth could shake. There's prophecy in the scripture that talk about that. Is it Jeremiah, I think? The Lord's feet will touch down and the mountain will literally cleave, right? Be torn apart from beneath him near the Mount of Olives, but in that area. So there's ways in which it could happen, and then you would have international support for rebuilding the Temple Mount, and then in that situation, while we're rebuilding the Temple Mount, fixing the Dome of the Rock or whatever, let's also build a third temple on that mountain. Another way, it could just be a big oops. War breaks out in the Middle East, and a bunch of rockets just were misguided or something. Who knows, right? And it takes out the dome. It could happen. Another way, in fact, you might know something about this, Rabbi, where a few years ago, the argument was made by Hebrew scholars that said that all it would take would be a mystical rabbi, an approved rabbi, who would say that the temple could be built next to the Dome of the Rock. Wouldn't have to be built over where many of them believe the Ark of the Covenant once existed, right?
Well, there's a lot of rabbis that have a lot of point of views, because in Rabbinic Judaism we have denominations just like in Christianity. So every rabbi has his own take on it. But having said that, I'm seeing something, and not to move the subject away, but something connected with the subject. Jews in Israel are seeing that they need a temple because they realize that what they've been doing for the past 2,000-3,000 years just doesn't work anymore. They're realizing that they need sacrifices for atonement of sins, and that's huge. They need a blood sacrifice, and that ties in what happened in Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication. This year, when I was there, when they dedicated the altar, they brought a lamb over there, and they said this is a dress rehearsal for the third temple, but it was the new Sanhedrin. It wasn't what's the new Sanhedrin? It was a Sanhedrin that was established to so-called do this dress rehearsal. And what they said is, this Passover, which is coming up on the 19th of April, just a few days away, and Nisan 14 on the biblical calendar, they said that they're going to actually sacrifice a lamb in Israel. Well, why didn't they sacrifice a lamb 10 years ago? Why didn't they sacrifice a lamb 5 years ago? Because they're realizing that something is happening. They don't quite know what it is. They can't put their finger on it, but something is happening. The end times are moving in. And in that quest for the search for the third temple or whatever it is, they want to sacrifice something. What are we doing in Israel? We're going out and using that sacrifice to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing.
The red
Bring them into
heifer,
the real temple, real Messiah
that we've heard so much about has been found. Is that correct?
Well, what they did, I know that the Temple Institute actually had a red heifer underground, and there's some other people that are saying that there's a red heifer underground. Some are saying that they have the temple assembled in a basement. That very well may be. But our focus is to see what's happening in Israel right now in these prophetic times. Is why do they want a temple? Yeah. Because they realize that they need atonement for sins. Something they didn't realize 5-10 years ago. We're moving into a new, and that's huge.
That's huge. Wow.